There's a lot of judgment around debt that is not fair and it's not right, but it's there and you want to just protect yourself from it the way you'd protect a friend from it.
Hey everybody, I'm Marielle Segarra, the host of NPR's Life Kit, and that is Stacey Vanek Smith, a global economics correspondent for NPR.
I have been covering business and economics for about 18 years.
Stacey has spent a lot of time talking to people about money, and today we're exploring debt, why so many people have it, how to get out of it, and even how to negotiate a better interest rate with your credit card company.
So many people are in debt right now. Prices have been rising, government stimulus isn't really happening anymore, and now credit card debt is rising at one of the fastest rates ever.
What would you say is the biggest misconception about this topic?
People associate being in debt with being irresponsible or being careless. Like, well, you should just spend less. You should just learn to budget. And I've talked to a lot of people who are struggling with debt right now, a lot. And almost every case, there was just a big life event that happened and they couldn't catch back up. I mean, prices are rising really fast right now. It is a strange time in the economy. There are a lot of layoffs happening, and people are just in some really difficult financial situations.
So let's say you have a lot of debt and you want to start paying it down. How would you go about that?
The first thing I would do is take a look at all of the different kinds of debt that you have, kind of lay it all out on the table. And what you want to look for is the debt that has the highest interest on it.
Right.
Interest is basically what how much your bank or your credit card or whoever gave you the loan is charging you for that loan. So let's say on a credit card, the average interest rate is really, really high. It's like 20%, which
That's
means
really high.
Yeah.
Would you move it to potentially another credit card, but just one with a lower interest rate?
The first thing you can do is call the card company and ask them if it's possible to lower the interest rate. You can say things like, I've been a really loyal customer for X number of years, or I've made all on-time payments, or I'm trying to get my credit in order. Like, I'd love to continue being your customer. And I'd love for this relationship to continue. What are some options that I have? Let's say they say no. Absolutely not. We will not lower your rate. One thing you can do is look around. A lot of cards right now are offering really, really low rates. You can call the card that you have and say, listen, I found this competitor. They're willing to offer me a credit card for X%. I'd love to stick with you guys. Can you match it?
Can you also call them and ask them and just tell them what your financial situation is and that you're like struggling to pay it?
I would try to keep emotion out of it,
Yeah.
as much as possible for your own sanity, but also, like, they're a business. And you are hopefully dealing with a human being, but you don't know what rules they're following or anything. So I think rather than trying to appeal sympathetically, you're giving them information they can give their superior.
So you were talking about paying off your credit cards first because those tend to have the highest interest rates. What about if you have a student loan or a car loan or, I don't know, any other kind of loan?
I would look at the rates on those, find out what your options are. You can always call and ask for a lower rate. Why not try?
Yeah.
And then I would prioritize paying off those loans by interest rate.
Yeah.
Try to cut into that interest charge as much as possible, because that's the thing that will really keep you from climbing out of debt. It's like interest, when it's that high, is often designed to keep you in debt. So like payday loans will sometimes have interest rates of 200%. You take out like $1,000 payday loan and you miss one payment and suddenly you're just in so far over your head. So you want to take care of that first.
Yeah. So if you're thinking about trying to get financially healthy and you have all this debt, but then you also want to have some savings for next time, how do you prioritize which one to do?
I mean, if you are dealing with a payday loan that has a huge interest rate, then I would say, you know what, I would just get that debt paid off first, and if an emergency comes up, charge it to a credit card. But if you are dealing with student debt, say, I would be like, you should, prioritize having a little cushion, like $500 or something like that. Because obviously, if you have a little savings, that can prevent you from having to charge stuff to a credit card, which has high interest. So you could be saving yourself money in the long run. If it's possible to put a little aside, I think that's always a really, really good idea.
So you were talking earlier about how one of the biggest misconceptions about debt is that it's a result of people being irresponsible, whereas often it's like you had some emergency or just some unexpected expense that came up. I want to acknowledge that and then also say for some folks, overspending can be an issue. Where would you start if you're looking at your finances and you're saying, okay, I want to start spending a little less so that I can put more money towards paying my debt down?
Even if you are really on a tight budget, I think you can always look and see, is there something that I could cut out that wouldn't cause me much pain? Sometimes like you look at your bank statement and you're getting charged for things you don't even remember you were getting charged for. The second thing I would do is just get a sense of like overall, use one of the apps. There are millions of them. Just get a sense of where your money's going. One of the things that can be really helpful is just to figure out, have like an aspirational budget or something, so it's like, okay, I would love to be saving $300 a month. For that to happen, I would need to spend X amount in each category. And one of the trends in budgeting that has kind of resurfaced is something called cash stuffing. You would have envelopes with like rent, groceries, and you would put the money in the envelope. And once the money was out of the envelope, you did not spend any more money on groceries or going out to eat or whatever it was. On TikTok, there are millions of videos of people, hilariously, they sell all these cute little envelopes for your cash that you can purchase.
Oh my God, another way to
They have some designer
debt.
ones, which I personally found quite delightful.
The
irony. But you have people, cash stuffing, and people like to watch, and there is something very satisfying about watching these little stacks of cash and how organized it is. It feels very zen. You're seeing every charge, you're feeling it, it's going through your hands. I went grocery shopping with a woman who was spending only cash, and she shopped in a way that was like very different from how she used to shop. She looked at the price of everything. She compared prices. She thought about like, she was like, okay, this money has to last me this food has to last me for 2 weeks. So it's just a little bit of a different mentality. And she was paying down $18,000 worth of credit card debt. She's paid down 5,000 of it. But, she started with that. She said she was very embarrassed about it. She went public with it on TikTok. Her name's Jamie Feldman. You can find her. But she went public with it. She said she'd never told anybody. Her family didn't know. And then she did a TikTok about it, and she said it was like she felt so ashamed. But then she said the second she started looking at it and like put it all out on the table, she's like, it came down so fast because there were just stupid things I could do. I was like, oh, I can cut this out. I can cut this out. And she said like the first like $3,000 to $4,000 were really easy. And this was probably one of the most profound things that I think I learned from talking to people about debt. I was like, oh, is there any part of the grocery store you don't go in anymore? She's like, I don't go to the olive oil aisle. Because she's like, I love they're so beautiful, and there are these jars of them, and I always can like talk myself into needing some kind of like, toasted sesame oil or some beautiful, balsamic vinegar. And it occurred to me, and I think this is really true in debt and with so many other things, that so much of getting some big, monstrous seeming thing, $18,000 of credit card debt or whatever it is, under control, is just these really mundane, little tiny day-to-day decisions.
A lot of retailers are really selling you an emotion. And I think part of getting your spending under control is interrupting those emotions or thoughts, acknowledging them.
Yeah.
But then also thinking about, what am I actually longing for right now? Maybe it's not this bottle of olive oil. Maybe it's connection with my friends. Like, I'm thinking about a dinner party. I could still have a dinner party without having like this very specific product.
All right, it's time for some role play. When you have a lot of debt, you might have to say no to social invites or requests for money, and it can be hard to communicate that. So we're going to give you some language to do it. In scenario 1, Stacey and I are cousins. I'm getting married across the country, and I ask her to be a bridesmaid, but she can't afford it.
Oh my gosh, I'm so honored. I am in kind of a stressed financial position right now, and if I were going to be your, like, in your bridal party, I would want to, like, really do it right, because I don't know, you always had such amazing taste, and I'm sure that there's like a beautiful dress and it's going to be such a fun party. I wouldn't want to, I feel like I would bring the whole bridal party down if I were part of it, honestly, because I just don't have money to spend. If that's okay and you would not mind having me in your party, if like I wouldn't necessarily have to buy a dress or anything like that, I would be so honored and happy to join or play whatever role. I can give a toast, whatever you need. It's just that particular role, just because I'm just, my finances are so tight right now. I don't think I can do that.
I'm so sorry to hear that. I didn't realize you were going through that.
Yeah, it's been a little stressful. I mean, it's under control. It's okay. But a lot of it is having to do things that are really hard, like saying no when like a really dear friend asks you something that you really want to say yes to. It means a lot to me that you asked. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, totally. Okay, love you, bye. The one thing these conversations might allow you to do is be vulnerable with people who you are close with.
Yes.
And share something that might allow them to support you in some way, even if that's just more emotional and social than
There's a
financial.
big emotional component to debt,
Yeah.
for sure. And yeah, I think you're right. I think that is like, there's an opening there, which is like a really important thing to remember. It's not necessarily just like this grim, terrible, I can't.
All right, scenario 2. Stacey and I are no longer cousins. Now we're dating. I love going out to fancy restaurants, and she just can't afford to keep doing that.
Babe, I wanted to talk with you about something. I know we've been going out to eat a lot, and that is something that you love. And I love going out to eat too. That is really fun, and I also just like love how much you love it and how excited you get. I looked at my budget last month, and I don't think it's like quite in my budget to keep eating out as much as we've been. I went through a period where I lost my job for a while and I didn't have any savings at that point. So I put a bunch of money on credit cards and I have about $30,000 in debt.
I just like, I don't know, it just seems like pretty irresponsible for you to have like gotten into that much debt, honestly. I don't see why I should have to be like eating in all the time.
I want you to know that I'm not like an irresponsible person, and I would be happy to go out to eat, but it might just have to be like a ramen bar or something instead of somewhere fancy. Or like if going out to like a really nice place is something you want to do, like I am totally cool if you want to go with friends or other things, to maybe like be able to experience those things in those places, and maybe we can find something else that's just a little more within my budget.
Okay, time for scenario 3. Stacey and I are now co-workers, and I am organizing a group gift for our colleague's son's kindergarten graduation.
Hey, Stacey. As a team, we really want to celebrate little Timmy. And so if you could just Venmo me like $50, that should cover it. I'll send you my Venmo handle for that.
That is so sweet. I really, I mean, I don't know. That's just a very thoughtful thing. I love that I work on a team where we like are this thoughtful. Financially, I can't do that right now. I don't have that extra money right now. I am so sorry. If you want to like make that clear to her or like sign a card, or like I know that's going to mean extra money for you guys, and I am sorry about that. I'm happy to help in other ways. I could book something, or if there's something I can do that doesn't involve money, I'm more than happy to help or pitch in any way I can.
Okay, thanks. Because unfortunately, I do think that is the response you might get. Like,
oh, of course.
Okay, thanks, but there's a lot behind it.
Judging.
Yeah.
Judging. And
There's
you
a
know
lot behind
what?
it.
Like people have, like they have a right to their own thoughts, as wrong as those thoughts may be. Money is this like stand-in for so many things for people, and it gets tied into feelings of like security, freedom, possibility, adventure, opportunity, intelligence, all this stuff. And so when people are talking about money, they're almost always talking about something else. And it's not usually what you associate with money. So if I associate money with like security, and you like make some comment to me about how I spend my money, it's probably coming from a place of you seeing it as possibility or something else. Yes, so like we're actually not speaking the same language, even though we think we are, because money is like an abstraction of value.
I think it's helpful to think about, when do you disclose the details of your financial situation.
Pretend like you're your own friend, right? I mean, how would you talk about a friend? I wouldn't say, Marielle can't contribute $50 because she's in $30,000 worth of credit card debt.
Yeah.
That would be really nasty. So why would I do that about myself if it wasn't to someone I trusted? It's important to just keep in mind that you don't owe anybody an explanation. It's not their business. One thing you can always say, it doesn't feel right to me right now, but please do keep me in mind for the future. Doesn't feel right to me is very hard to argue with.
Yeah.
Because people are like, well, why not?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. It just doesn't. Or I'm not going to be able, it's not going to work with my schedule for the wedding. If you don't feel comfortable talking about money at all, you don't have to. That information is something you should only give up to the point you're comfortable, and probably underestimate your comfort level. You just want to take care of yourself in these situations.
Yeah, I love that. If you had to pick a word that we should use when approaching a big pile of debt, what's the one word that you should approach that debt with?
I would say daily, because I think debt can feel so overwhelming. But I think it is nothing more and nothing less than like a daily commitment. Dealing with debt is making lifestyle changes. Making lifestyle changes is one of the hardest things that you can do. And I think to recognize and to honor like the size and the scope of what you're doing, and to respect yourself for that, but to know that it's going to feel like this little daily grind. Just like every day, just like tackle what you can do in that one day. And I think that's the best way to deal with debt, and with a lot of things, honestly.
Daily reminders of why you're doing this, daily attempts to find other things that allow you to care for yourself without spending loads of money, daily culling of your friend group to make sure that
Honing. I prefer the term honing.
only the good ones remain.
Yes, we from the chaff.
Stacey, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, anytime.
And thanks for playing along with all those role play
absolutely,
scenarios.
that was really fun.
All right, time for a recap. Pay off your debt with the highest interest rate first. If you have other credit card offers, use them as leverage. Ask your credit card company to match the lower interest rate. Once you've paid off your loans with super high interest rates, try to put a little bit of money in savings every month while you pay off the rest of your debt, even if it's the tiniest amount. That way you'll have money set aside for emergencies and you won't have to put them on a credit card in the future. And remember, there's a lot of judgment around debt, so when you're navigating conversations about it, protect yourself. You don't owe anyone the details.